Hey sis, welcome back to the Better Version. And if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Corey. I'm a life purpose strategist, and I help young women like yourself not only discover their calling, but also gain the clarity and confidence to walk in that calling. And today we're going to talk about transformation. I thought about the many ways I wanted to approach this conversation, and I started to overthink it a little bit too much. And at the end of the day, I just heard my own voice say, be authentic, be yourself. There's nothing like being you. And it's something that I have always advocated for and have spoke about frequently throughout my videos. And so it's like, hey girl, take your own advice. So today I am partly testifying of my own personal experience with transformation, as well as sharing some tidbits that I've noticed along the way that's common for most people. My ultimate prayer is that you take something away that is meaningful for you through my testimony and through some of the things that I want to share with you. If you see me occasionally look down, it's because I have some notes. I have some topics that I want to touch on. This will be quite a lengthy conversation. I pray that you stay to the end, but I completely understand if you drop off at some point. Take what you need with you, and if that's all that you need, that, I've done my job, basically. So one of the things about transformation is that we try to confine it into a box. We try to say, oh, this, and this is going to happen, and that's how you will transform. There's nothing wrong with that, but I would not confine it to a box, because the steps that I've gone through to become the woman that I am today is not necessarily the steps that you will go through. The whole purpose of, me being a life purpose strategist is to even impart the things that I've gone through, because I've been built for those things, and to share that wisdom with you so you don't have to go down that road, because maybe going down that road could ultimately destroy you, could set you back quite a bit. Like, why go through those things if you could kind of live vicariously through me, right? And so that is my personal calling. And it is to really just encourage young women to really operate in their calling, gain the confidence that they need, gain the clarity that they need in order to do what God has called them to do. And so in order for us to get to that point, we have to go through a transformation. And transformation takes time. Don't let anyone fool you into thinking that, okay, well, within 6 months, this is what's going to happen. A perfect example of this, and it is something that we all fall susceptible to, is when we start a workout plan. If we want to get our bodies into shape, you have a lot of people out there who try to convince you that, within a year or half a year, you can get this body or the ideal body that you are seeking. You can get that within 6 months to a year. That's not necessarily true. I've seen women who have been consistently posting, who have been transforming their bodies for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, 10 years to get it to the place that they are happy with. And so they put these videos out there just to give you encouragement to say, hey, you know what, this is going to take time. It's not going to happen in 3 months. It's, you can't start working out in January and think that by June you're going to have, a summer body. It's just false advertisement. And so I want to reiterate the fact that going through transformation, whether it's a physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual, it does take time. Do not try to rush the process, because you will miss the wonderful things along the way that you pick up. And in saying this, for me personally, getting to this point where I'm sitting here and sharing that with you took time. It took healing, it took unlearning, it took relearning, and it also took shedding. And shedding is not just so much about, the personal, aspects about ourselves or the habits that we have. It's also about people, and people that we either consider in high regard, or that are close to us, or that have some type of significant meaning in our lives. Sometimes we have to let go of those people in order to move forward. And this is a big struggle because we are meant to live in community. And sometimes that community that we're in can unfortunately be an unhealthy community. And so this is the hardest part of that process because of, the ties that we have with individuals. I know that there are people that I've grown up with or that I went to elementary school with, and this might sound trivial, but it isn't. People I've gone to school with, whether it's elementary, high school, that I no longer talk to. I don't see anymore. I don't look out for them. They don't look for me. They're not curious about me. That's just part of life, because as we mature and as we, evolve, so to speak, or elevate, if you will, there are certain people who will not go at the same pace that you're going at. And that's just a part of life. And so when we come into that realization that moving forward, there's not always going to be the same people around us, all depending on the type of relationship that we have with these individuals, it does become increasingly difficult, especially when you have dreams and aspirations. And so when I started this channel, I did a lot of different things. I initially just came on here, hopped on, and just started kind of talking. And, whatever topic I was talking about, that was, what I was talking about. There was no system, there was no structure or format into how I put my videos out. I spoke about the Bible a lot. I still do speak about the Bible as well. There was a point where I was taking some of the verses that I have from my devotionals every morning and just kind of expounding on that. There are different types of things. I talked about things from my past, what I learned, things, situational stuff that was happening in real time, and how I felt about that, and, having the time to kind of mull over and think about, okay, how could I have handled this situation better? Or was I in the wrong? All kinds of things. So it really was a lot when I first started posting on here. And then I came to a point where I wanted to narrow down, what is it or who is it that I need to speak to? And so there was a moment where I stopped. I took a real hard pause. I was also in a different business as well. Aside from starting my own business, I was in a different entrepreneurial endeavor that did not work out in the end, but ultimately did work out. And what I mean by that is I had to go through that process, go through that journey and that season, not only to pick up some things that were necessary for the now, but also to learn some personal lessons about myself, about people, about how I discerned relationships, a whole host of things. And so I went through that 3-4 year period of just learning, unlearning, and growing. So when I say transformation is different for everyone, I truly mean it's different for everyone. And people won't really understand your process, and they don't need to. They really don't need to. And you are not obligated to break it down to them or to explain it to them. If you know that within your spirit, within your heart, something has been impressed on you to do this particular thing, then there's a high likelihood that you are meant to do that thing. And don't allow people around you to decide whether it's worth it to pursue or not. It's within you. You were called to that. And when I spoke about coaching, and being a strategist for young women, I had people pulling me in 10 million different directions saying, oh, well, you can do this here or you can do this there. But the reason why they were suggesting or recommending that was because it would be beneficial for them on the back end, not because they saw my gift, appreciated my gift, and wanted to nurture that gift. And so that is the really big challenge that happens within transformation. I'll say that we all go through this. We may go through it in different forms, but we definitely go through the challenge of breaking away from people, relationships, in order to pursue what God has called you to do. And this is a one-on-one conversation, which is something I say fairly often in my videos when I speak about calling. This wasn't a conference call. He didn't clue in your mama or your poppy or your boyfriend, girlfriend, bestie, whatever. He didn't clue all these people in, because realize that at the end of the day, it's not for them to be a part of that ultimate goal, if you will. And I don't want to treat it like it's a destination, because it isn't a destination. It's a lifestyle, it's a process. And the only time that it ends is when God calls you home. So when people start to question or feel funny, the best way I could really relate this to is Noah. When God told Noah to build an ark because in X amount of time, I am going to flood the earth. And he went along and started building that ark. No one around him could understand why he was doing it. People would pass by, they would mock him, they would say crazy things to him, but he kept building that ark. And believe that these are people that Noah knew. These are not complete strangers. These are people who were around him. These were people who were in his city, in his town, in his neighborhood, if you will, and thought that he's nuts. But the only reason why they thought that way is because they did not receive the call. Noah did. And so if you can relate to Noah's story, then you can understand why people act a little funny around you. Hey y'all, I ran into some video issues while recording this episode. So the remainder of the conversation will be strictly audio only. Feel free to multitask. Don't want to waste any more time. Let's get back into it. At the end of 2025, I started to feel a shift in the environment. And in order for that shift to make sense, we would need to go back to the very beginning of 2025. So where I was at that point in time, I had left this prior entrepreneurial business, realizing that I wasn't in alignment with my call. But yet that whole season was very purposeful. And so I thank God for it. But I had to move on. And when 2025 started, I was in a place of, okay, I'm going to surrender to the call. God, what do I need to do? And one of the first things was to just really pull everything that I had learned up to that point together. And that looked like taking a course, knowing that part of my call is to teach, in one instance, to mentor, if you will, to really be someone of service and support for a group of people. Now, who are those? Who is that group of people? There's one thing I learned in business is that if you are speaking to everyone, you're actually speaking to no one. And so I had to get specific on that. And so while going through, moments of prayer, moments of silence, stillness, it came to me that mentoring and helping young women within their 20s and 30s was the target. And so I started to work towards that. And life purpose coaching was not something that came to me immediately. It was something that actually found me. And while I was sitting there, I said, oh my goodness, this is it. And I went through that program and it took me some time. And I was very nervous about going through this because I felt to myself, well, this is the first time that I've heard about life purpose coaching. I'm wondering, has anyone else heard about this? And will they take this seriously? Again, all of these little doubts and fears start to creep up within me. However, I went through the course. I got certified, and now it was about, how do I build this business? How do I make it credible, legitimate, etc. And that's when I came randomly, and you can't see me doing the air quotes, but I'm air quoting randomly, came into contact with a group of people who mentor coaches. And I went to their, I wouldn't call it a master class, but just like, say, an open house, if you will. And we spent maybe a few hours together. And then that few hours turned into a master class that I attended, and or onboarding, if you will. And as I was going through this process, I felt perfectly in alignment with everything that was going on. So that's what let me know that, oh, okay, God is sending me here. What do I need to learn from these people? I better pay attention, type of thing. And so I went through that onboarding. I went through this program with them, and it's about to come to an end now. So I just want to kind of pause right here and say, if you follow the flow and you find yourself surrounded by people who are there to really nurture your gift, I encourage you to really just soak up as much as possible. Whatever knowledge, whatever notes you need to take down, whatever videos you need to rewatch, because some people have online access to where you can go into, let's say, a back office, if you will, and rewatch past trainings, etc. Do all of that. Do all of that. Take down the notes. If there's things that you can save onto your computer, do that. Because this is valuable information, and the fact that you're in flow with what's going on means it's things that you need for your next. So don't breeze by, don't brush off or brush over that season in your life, because it really does hold valuable information for you. And so with that, I soaked up as much as possible. I asked all the questions. I had people who were, helping me craft my business in a way that I had never encountered before. They were able to help me fine tune things without telling me what to say or what to do. And I'm so used to that. I'm so used to asking other people's opinions, or what do you think I should say? These people helped me and encouraged me to think for myself. And while that might sound ridiculous to some people, some others can relate, because when you are never put in a position to think for yourself, or to come up with a brilliant idea, or to even have your ideas dismissed, let that happen to you enough and you start to doubt in your own ability. And that's where I was at. And so to have these people come into my life and say, oh, well, what is it that you want to say? Or who do you want to speak to? Or, what have you done? Or what past experiences have helped you to become XYZ? All the questions that are necessary to help build, nurture, and encourage you to be your authentic self. So again, I thank God for those people who came into my life. And so as that was happening, I was enthusiastic, I was energetic, I had something to do every single day. Sometimes I would spend the majority of the day just working on my business and working on ways that I could help young ladies become the best versions of themselves. And that's when the better version began. Before, this channel was called Corey's Corner. And while I enjoyed that part, because if you go and you look at videos from maybe 2, 3, or even 4 years ago, you'll see that the moniker was Corey's Corner in the beginning. While I enjoyed that time and it was a time of experimentation, I didn't want my name in things because I felt as though if my name was in it, then it meant that it was like a little self-centered. That's not what I'm called to do. I'm not called to think about myself or, put myself on a pedestal. I'm here to uplift others. I'm here to shine a light and to have the presence of the Lord be so evident in my life that others see it and they are inspired. And that, as far as Corey is concerned, that's where I'm focused. But I didn't want my name in anything. I didn't want my business to kind of reflect like, oh, look at me. It's more like, let's look at us and how can we build us up. So I really thought about how can I change this name? What name could I use? The better version came up in a way that I was researching names or researching ways to best describe what this journey is about. And the better version really is something that it isn't new as far as understanding the name. But for me, the better version speaks about constantly growing because that is what part of our life is to really grow. Every day we're learning something. Every day there's something about us that changes or that expands or that evolves. And, we talk about being the best versions of ourselves. Well, the better version is about waking up every day and becoming the better version of who we are. And that's kind of how it came to life. And so, right in the excitement of all of that, I think I came to probably the second half of the year. So now we're talking about July, August, September. And I was like, I hit a plateau. And that's when I started to kind of, I don't know if it was panic or, you know, things when they start to slow down, it becomes uncomfortable. And that's where I was. I was just in a place of discomfort and trying to figure out how do I get back into the flow again? Um, and I didn't realize that that was an opportunity where God was like, okay, slow down. Let's take a pause. I gave you all the energy that you needed in order to um, become who, or start to become who I've called you to be. Start the business, craft the ideas, put it all together. I've put you in front of people who are going to help you. But this is where I started to get distracted. And that's something that happens when you go through transformation, is that there are moments where you can get distracted. And so the second part, or if you will, the third quarter of the year, I became distracted with, different things that in hindsight, it's not one specific thing. It's a number of little things that just compounded on itself. From January to June, not only was I building my business, finishing my course, becoming certified and all of that, there was other aspects of my life that were going extremely well. I started to really take fitness more seriously. I was working out every day. I had done 2 programs within that time, and one of them was like 4 months. It was a 4-month program. Every single day except Sunday, I would be working out. And I start to see the changes physically for me, feeling stronger, being motivated to really just take on my day. But by the time August, September rolled around, I started to kind of slow down and kind of drift off. I was still mentally highly motivated to do everything, but spiritually, I don't think I was really on point. Um, I wasn't reading my Bible as much. I wasn't going to church as often, and I just did not notice these things immediately, but gradually it started to just kind of go from, oh, I missed one Sunday to I missed a few Sundays. Oh, I didn't do my devotion today till like I completely abandoned my devotion. And other outside things were taking priority that, I just simply didn't put my foot down and say, hey, this is a boundary between this time and this time. Don't really bother me with anything because I'm doing this. And then my workouts started to become inconsistent. I would wake up every morning at 6 o'clock, get my breakfast, pull myself together. Um, if I had to bring my daughter to the bus stop, then that was that. And then there was summer vacation, but I was still waking up consistently in the morning to where I would wake up, I would do my devotion, I would spend time with God, then I would go make my breakfast. And in between there, between 8, 9 o'clock, like that's how consistent and scheduled I was. Between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., I would start my workout, and my workouts were 60 minutes every day. So for 1 hour, I would work out. And then after that, I would take my recovery. I would have a shake even. And then I would do something throughout the day. But my morning was always very consistent. I would work out first thing in the morning type of thing. That started to waver as well. And so by the time I got to the end of 2025, it was like God knocking on my door of my heart and saying, hey, what's up? I haven't seen you in like a hot minute. Where'd you go, girl? And it was at that point that I really had to stop and think about, where am I going? Why am I allowing all these outside things to really take up my time? And I truly mean outside things. If I, want to get specific, I think we remember all throughout summer, we were kind of glued to our TVs trying to figure out what was going to happen with Diddy and his trial and all the hoopla that was surrounded by that. I mean, you can't help but notice that if you're on social media, it's going to show up. And then all of the, craziness that was surrounding that. things of that nature, to where you're letting outside things that really didn't matter to you in the beginning, about people that you really didn't care for. And I'm saying that with all due respect, allow to take your attention away from what you actually value. And that was really what was happening to me. And by the latter part of 2025, I just started to feel very burnt out and, almost indifferent, almost apathetic to some point, because I wasn't paying attention to the things that I needed to pay attention to. And so I started to feel this shift, and that's when I reconnected with the Lord, and it was like, oh, I'm sorry, you know. But I think that God just has so much grace for us. And when I say this, don't take grace as something that we can abuse, because He can remove His grace from you. But He has so much grace that He sees, you're going in the direction, you're answering the call, but you're still having a human experience where you still have to battle with, the flesh. You have to battle with your own mind, your own desires, different spirits and energies that you need to deal with as well. And spending time with Him is what allows us to be able to not only know how to deal with these things, but even conquer these battles with His help. And so by that point, I decided to take a little bit of a rest. And it's in that rest that He asked me to do something that was so strange. And I'll tell you right now, I still don't have the answer to it. I still don't know the reason. However, I'm walking in that if He's asked me to do this, it is for a particular reason, and it is for my greater good. And I highly doubt that this will harm me in any way, shape, or form. But by late November, I believe early December, He had asked me to just abandon certain social media pages. So at this point, He had asked me to delete my Instagram and to also delete my Facebook. I was a little hesitant, not having to do with the fact that I had X amount of followers or anything like that, just more of me thinking from my logical and finite mind of, well, if I'm going to build this business and people need to see who I am and see what I'm about, and I'm supposed to find, quote unquote, these young ladies, how are they going to find, or they find me rather, how will they do that if I'm not even on social media? And that was kind of like the back and forth that I was having. And by the time the new year started, now meaning 2026, I had deleted those pages. Because remember, I was saying earlier that when we are in flow, we will do things that, even though it may not make sense at that moment in time, the Holy Spirit may prompt you to do certain things and it may not make logical sense, but God doesn't operate in logic. He operates in purpose. And you will do those things because at the end of the day, you're heading somewhere. And I just needed that reminder for myself that if God's asking you to do these things, it's for a very specific reason. And could it be that the audience or the women for whom He wants me to communicate to aren't on Instagram or Facebook, right? So with that said, I did delete my Instagram and Facebook. Do not look for me there. You will not see TBV Live anymore. I know if some of you have been connected to me through there, as well as being a subscriber here on YouTube. If you were following me on either one of those platforms, I am no longer there. So don't look for me. I do have a TikTok. And I'm also feeling that that will also come to an end as well. And YouTube will be the only place that you will find me, or via email. Now, this may sound like the antithesis of what you should be doing as far as building your business. Everybody under the sun will tell you if you don't have some type of social media page, your business will fail. That is not what I am feeling. And again, because this is about transformation, no one can really tell you for certain how you will succeed, because your process is yours. And though there may be practical steps that you can take, there may be formats that work for the mass majority of people. And especially here on YouTube, you got to have a great thumbnail, they say, or you got to have a hook title, you got to have a hook intro. I became a little bit obsessed, if you will, about trying to find the right thumbnail, the right title, and the right hook intro, and the consistent opener and closer that I have for my videos in order to get quote unquote more views. And it stopped being about my purpose, my calling, and more about trying to find the hacks in the algorithm. This is what I talk about when I mean operating outside of flow. This is where people get burnt out the most, because they're doing things that are not in concert with what they're called to do. And in as much as I saw a little bit of progress come out of that, the mechanism in going through that was opposite to who I am. So I'm a free flower. I like to speak. I might say sometimes. There you go. I may take long pauses. I may not speak so eloquently at times, all depending on what it is that I'm talking about. My thoughts may be disjointed. I may ramble. I may go on tangents. But that's the essence of who I am. And if I start to curate that into what I think or believe the algorithm is going to be accepting of, or what people are going to be accepting of, then I start operating outside of the flow of where I'm supposed to be. And so think about that for yourself in whatever it is that you do. You may not be here on YouTube. YouTube may not be a thing for you. You're not aspiring to be a YouTuber or what have you, or you know that you're using YouTube as a tool. Don't operate outside of the flow of what you're meant to do. Because the moment you do that, you will experience a lot of frustration. You'll start to become fake. And this is where I feel fakeness comes from. It's not that you as a person are fake. You're just trying to create this avatar of a person that you believe will be acceptable, or will garner you more views, more subscribers, allow you to be monetized on YouTube, etc. To with full transparency, I've thought about these things, and in some small ways, I've even have a few videos where I've crafted it in such a way where it's like, oh, well, if you do it like this, then people will watch longer. And that started to become stressful for me. And that's when I realized I was outside of flow. So this is the first video that I've pretty much put out for lack of a better way to explain it, where I'm myself. I'm being myself. Where I'm talking freely. I'm not trying to craft it in a way where I can now go back and create chapters of this. This is a real conversation. This is how I would speak to anyone who is sitting in front of me. And this is the most liberated I've felt in months. And I think basically that's what God was trying to reveal to me. When you feel free and you feel liberated and you just speak the way that you would naturally speak, that's where people resonate with you the most. And I'm getting back to that. There is a space for me. There is a space for me because God has called me to this, and I'm here. I'm here. It's not about necessarily being on YouTube, but it's about God created me for a specific purpose. He called me to a specific area or arena. There is space for me. And I want you to know that there is space for you just as you are. Allow God to mold you and build you into who He's called you to be, but know that that building and that molding isn't so that you can be accepted by, 90% of the viewers on YouTube or, a specific class of people. No, He's building you and molding you to become who you need to be for those who need your impact. And that's something that I had to remind myself of as well. You are here to make an impact on behalf of God. And that impact is going to be made as long as you stay true to who God is building you to be. And so that is basically what I wanted to talk about as far as transformation is concerned, is the authenticity of it, your unique path that you take that doesn't have to be co-signed by anyone but God. The clarity that can be found when you just sit still and block out all the noise, and the process that you can, or not process, but progress rather, that you can make when you are operating in flow. And so just the last little bit that I want to share with you here. Currently, a lot of things are just changing for me. I don't know how things will be moving forward. It's a little scary for me because now I'm stepping outside of the, gotta have the perfect thumbnail, gotta have the this, the that, and the third. There may be some things that I will keep because I do find them useful. But as far as, being my authentic self and the way I speak and the way I deliver a message, that will stay the same. There's no way that, a bunch of quote unquote gurus that upload their videos here on YouTube say, oh, the reason why you're not growing is because you're not doing X, Y, and Z. Anyone who's asking me to be outside of myself isn't really concerned about my personal gift, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. It is fine. But I've found that when I'm surrounded by people who see my gift, acknowledge my gift, help me nurture that gift, I'm always operating in the best place possible. And let's face it, just this little last bit about YouTube. Maybe some of us are not meant to have thousands or millions of followers. As it stands right now, for when I last checked, which was probably about 2 hours ago, I have 50 subscribers here. And I'm grateful for those 50, because within those 50, there is a small group of people who consistently watch my videos, which means that they're getting something out of it. Do they comment every single time? No. Do they have to? No. I watch videos all the time and I don't comment on them. Not every single one that I watch. I may throw a like, or sometimes I may forget to throw a like, and I'm subscribed to the channel. You understand what I'm saying? It's not about looking at the metrics. And I appreciate the metrics there, the analytics and all of that. I really do. But for those who are watching me or listening to me right now, because this is an audio version of my video, I want you to think about, are you in the flow? Are you operating in your calling and knowing that you put your best foot forward today? Whatever you're doing today, whatever that means to you. Are you concerning yourself with the results, or are you concerning yourself with being obedient? Because there's a big difference. And so let's focus our energy and our thoughts, our mind, our spirit into being obedient and to doing what God has asked us to do, and less on the results. Because ultimately the results will come, but the results are for His glory, not yours. And if that was a reminder that you needed today, then here is your reminder. And I've got to remind myself as well. It's about giving God glory and the honor through our works. And so I pray that you have received what you needed out of this testimony / conversation, and that you take that with you and you apply it to your call, to your work, so that He gets the glory. And when He gets the glory, in turn, you can be blessed. And with those blessings, you turn around and you bless others. And when you bless others, you're giving glory to God. This is, it's a circle, never ending rotation of honoring God, God blessing you, you blessing others, and that those blessings honor God. So I pray that you got what you needed today. I love that I was able to share this with you, because there's a lot of things that I would love to share, but the Holy Spirit tells me to hold on to them for an appointed time. So I will do that. But you guys have a blessed day and continue to operate in truth, in faith, and in purpose. All right. You guys take care, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.